Hello YouTube, welcome to another sloppy video on my part. This is a response to Robert Wallace's last video on gun control, link in the description box. Here's some of my direct responses to some of the things he said. Firstly, I will say that in my last video I was setting up the fact that I live in Denver, and in Denver, we are unique in America in that the conversation about gun control happens all the time. We've had two major mass shootings that are, engraved in American history. I just went to a Marilyn Manson concert where, the topic was talked about right there, with him on stage because of all of the controversy of him, having a concert here right after the Columbine shooting. But if you don't think that people who live in Denver have a unique perspective that should be listened to, go watch the documentary Bowling for Columbine, and then go look for your documentary of Bowling for Mr. Malvo. You won't find it, because there is a unique perspective here, and if you're going to deny that, then that's just disingenuous on your part. As far as the false equivalency that you're seeing, when I say that you have a problem with the military-grade weapons, and you think that there's no use for them, I have a problem with the weapons that are actually causing the most deaths. And I want those attacked first, with legislation. I want those to be corrected first. I want the actual problem, because what happened with the real legislation that happened in response to mass shootings in my state was things that are of no consequence were addressed. Okay? Boiled down to one sentence here, so you can understand this, okay? I want a good return for any freedoms that I'm going to be giving up, okay? If I'm going to give up some freedom, I want something good to happen. And if it's just not going to result in anything consequential, then fuck it. Don't fuck with the law. But you did challenge people to come up with some other ways that we could deter gun violence. So, I'm going to meet your challenge, okay? 3 minutes into this video, I'm just going to say, fuck it, I'll just do exactly what you want here. Here we go. First, I'll tell my story. And this is kind of hilarious here. I don't actually own any guns, and if you see any videos of me shooting guns, they don't belong to me. I haven't owned a gun since 2001. And that is because I had a very bad experience with guns. Not something that was a mishap or anything, but because I was a single soldier living in barracks on Fort Carson, and I was told that I could not keep my guns in my barracks room because, if somebody were to get pissed off at their boss in the Army, they might, frag them or, shoot them, because stresses, they ran high around that time. So any single soldier living in the barracks had to lock up their weapons in the armory. Same place that we would put our M16s, that we would have to go sign them out to go to the firing range to qualify. And what this did to me was, the rules for signing out your weapon were, you had to go there before the close of business, before 5 o'clock, and you had to sign them out, and then you could go to the firing range and use them, and then you couldn't bring them back into the barracks that night. You had to bring them directly to the armory, which would be closed, and if you were caught with your weapon, whatever it was in your car or in the barracks, then you would be subject to disciplinary action because you were on post and you were under their rules, you know. And for one, I could not get off early out of the calibration lab that I was working in to go get my gun to go to the firing range. That was just something that was not going to happen repeatedly, so it was very restrictive. And two, this is the part that sucked. Less responsible, less ranking people who got married just to get extra money with marriages of conveniences in the Army, they lived off post so they could keep their guns in their house. But where I lived, where I was forced to live, because I was a single soldier of not enough rank yet to live off post, I was not allowed to have my guns in my home. And that pissed me off. And I had other things going on in my head at the time where some soldiers that I worked with that were married were getting off of work, and I was pulling their work because they were driving their unlicensed spouses to doctor's appointments, you know. And I just felt like I was pulling all their weight. This is some of the reasons that I left the Army. Anyways, at that time, instead of leaving my guns in the armory, I took them and I gave them to my brother. Because I just didn't like the system that I had to live under. And so, funny thing is, that pissed me off so much that I just never bothered getting into shooting ever again. Every time I've gone shooting, I've been invited to somebody else setting something up and supplying the guns. So, yeah, that is one way to get less people to have access to guns, is just give them bad experiences, and that's not a very good plan. But here's some good plans, okay? Thought out things. First, the cop-out catch-all of plans would be to fund research into reducing gun violence. How's that? Just like start committees and give them, the funding and the backing to actually research all this shit. There you go. There's one plan. I know it's kind of catch-all and vague, but trust me, knowledge is power. Okay, so that's one. Number two, general education, and I left this in a comment to Robert Wallace, but I'm not talking about teaching people how to use guns. No, I'm talking about how educated people have less crime in general and a whole bunch of other things that correlate with just having education. So we educate our people, we get them invested in their lives, and I would actually say that one of my plans would be, this is a strange one, we assign every person in America a social worker, okay? And let's say every social worker will have 900 clients, and once a year, they'll meet with 3 people in that day, right? Once a year, you'll get met for a couple hours, and that social worker will assess your educational needs and then get back with you on maybe grants that you could get, help you out with whatever sort of educational plan that you need, and, just hook you up with social services that could get you to where you want to go and keep you invested in your life. And this plan is very much like how the U.S. government really subsidizes home ownership in order to keep crime rates down and keep people invested in their communities. Because if nobody owned their own homes and everyone was renting, everyone would, treat their neighborhood like a rented car, So I'm saying being more invested in your life and having educational credentials that you know, you are afraid to lose if you were to be caught doing a gun crime. You know, that would be one way to keep the gun crime down. General education. That's the plan. Okay. Plan number 3, tax. Let's say this is based on a joke from Chris Rock where he said, you know, if bullets cost $5,000, then you'd know that the person who got shot really deserved it. I'm an addictions counselor myself, and I know that one of the ways that I can get people to quit smoking is to tell them, hey, you're wasting a lot of money, and the government keeps on raising the taxes on these cigarettes, and it's like, what, $5 a pack now? You know, $5 a day for a pack-a-day smoker, that's a lot of money. You know, if bullets had more taxes on them, less people would buy bullets. You know, it's simple math there. Taxes are a deterrent to any industry. Let's see. Plan number 4. Registering all weapons with ballistics matching. So everyone would have to, if you own a gun, you have to go down to the police station and shoot a bullet and give it to them so that they can later match that bullet. Now, this is not going to work with shotguns, you know, because, yeah, unless you could shoot a shotgun slug, but then if the crime was committed with, you know, birdshot, then, yeah, fuck the police. That's not going to help much. But also, there's some loopholes other than that with registering and ballistics matching. I'm saying that if somebody gets caught with a gun that isn't registered, then there needs to be a consequence for that. And then in a couple of years after that, when pretty much all guns are registered, then make the consequences even stiffer. You know, give a little bit of a grace period, but then really just clamp down on that. But then 2 things that need to be addressed are 3D printing, because with 3D printers, they're almost to the point where they can make a usable AR-15, you know, usable AK-47. You know, they're still they're printing with like plastic and polymers, but pretty soon they're going to get to the point where they can print a good quality rifle. So how do you keep people from, you know, having an unregistered gun when they can just print it at home? I don't know. But the penalty for that maybe should be high. Close the mail loophole that I've seen used by a felon that I know. He's not allowed to buy a weapon because with a background check he would be caught as a felon. So he bought certain parts to a weapon and put them together because he bought the parts separately. And so, yeah, that loophole of being able to buy all the parts separately and then assemble them yourself, in certain circumstances, it's a workaround that can put an otherwise illegal gun into their hands. You know, plan number 5. Okay, metal detector checkpoints. Basically, put metal detectors everywhere. Grocery stores, every federal building, hospitals. Just make it so that anyone who would want to carry their weapon around would be hassled everywhere they go. You know, the hassle is what I'm getting at. If the hassle was there, less people would carry around their guns, and they just, you know, sit in their closets collecting dust, and then they'd become something that people might want to get rid of. Restricting public land usage. This is number 6. Now, I just came from a shooting fun day on Rampart Range Road, and since the last time I'd been out there, the first 12 miles of this dirt road that has a lot of switchbacks up in the mountains, the first 12 miles were shut down to shooting. And a lot of the best places where there's a lot of ravines, where there's a lot of backdrop that will catch your bullets, a lot of the best places were made illegal to shoot at, and they're now camping land. And so you have to go 12 miles out, you know, and that's a bother. You might not want to use that road anymore if you don't want to take your vehicle out that far, because the roads are bumpy, you know. But I imagine that there's public lands everywhere that could be restricted a little bit more to make it a little bit more tedious to go out and have a fun time shooting. So these are things that are within the public's reach as far as saying, hey, we don't want shooting next to our camping, and we want to appropriate this land for camping only. If you wanted to get rid of people who were staunchly defending their right to go have fun, take away their spots where they have fun, and they'll get bored after a while because there's nowhere to go. Let's see, plan number, I don't know. Let's say we profile all probationers and parolees, and we have a padded wagon go around to every one of their houses while they're on probation, randomly, right? And we go in, we take them out, and we sit them in the padded wagon, and then we search their whole house, because they are more likely to have guns that are illegal. And so we just profile those people who correlate more to gun violence, and specifically the people who are on probation and parole for violent charges. And the last idea I've got, it's not original, it is gun turn-in programs for things like money, food vouchers, Thanksgiving turkeys, concert tickets, and good seats at NFL games. A lot of police stations do this, but the reason why it works is because if you're somebody who bought a gun that was, you know, on the street on the black market, you might have paid like $300 for this thing, and you want a return on your investment. You don't want to just like turn it in for free. You know, that was $300 you paid, and it's worth $300, but if you're going to sell it, you're going to be selling it on the black market. So to keep people from selling it on the black market, I say, offer programs that, you know, have amnesty for turn-in, and give a reward that's worth a gun. You know, that people are actually, you know, willing to give up that gun for, because, you know, there are some preppers and felons and gang members that, you know, they hold on to those guns like their currency, like Bitcoin. You know, it's an alternative currency to them. So to offer a program that would, like, look up the value of the gun and give them, you know, a card that was loaded with money to buy food at the grocery store, that would be a good program. You know, they would get their money's worth out of that gun. And then we could take the gun and do whatever we want with it. So, those are all my ideas that I can think of right now. Some of them haven't been talked about in this conversation, but I'm pretty sure none of my ideas are unique or original in that respect. Because I hear about them all over, you know, the conversation doesn't end in Denver. It just doesn't, especially with the trial that never ends.